just a lovely fall day. This is shot on the Panasonic DVX200. It is outputted to an Atmos Ninja, and the setting on the Panasonic is the 10-bit 422 setting. So we also shot in Vlog. So we're taking a little tour of the garden. There's our clovers and our rye seed. Always seems like the clovers go first. You know that. The clovers are the most delicious ones. And I think this length is kind of just about right for them. They really, I feel like when they're sprouts, they have a little bit more flavor to them for them. And the more they grow, I think the less appealing they are. I think the very, very thing they like the most is seed sprouts. And then anything after that, it's they'll still like it, but they really like the sprouts, and they really like it when they're really little, the microgreens. They like greens of all types. Seems like they'll eat, they'll eat it all eventually, but the stuff that'll go first is this kind of stuff right here. These just newly sprouted little clover heads, essentially clover microgreens. There's a big bucket licorice. Old school licorice used to be in their red vines, and now it's a bucket of wild bird seeds. I'll sprout that too. All the black flower sunflower seeds I made this year came from those type of seeds from the wild bird seed mix. There's Cuddles taking a drink right there. I always like getting them taking a drink. It's like one of the most intimate things they do, is getting a drink of water. So I feel like, and look, a little poop there. Poop. So Cuddles gave us a little show. Did it all. Took a drink, took a poop, ate some more food. I think Cuddles is living the life. And here comes Legs. Legs, the hardest one to expose because of her white fur. Very, very shiny in the sun. And so sometimes she can be difficult to expose, but she looks pretty good here. Always remember to set your white balance, boys and girls, lovers. Set the white balance so you don't end up looking too blue or too orange. You write down the little. I'd say this looks okay. I'd say this looks pretty decent. If you have a white sheet or gray sheet, you can use to balance it out. Today we're checking on the worm bin. Look, I found one. It's a little wormy right here while the camera finds focus. Hey, look at the little wormy. Very, very healthy looking. And so, yeah, it's just living there amongst the paper shreddies. And so you can see a little pepper, old school pepper in there. I'm being very careful because you can cut those, you can cut the worms in half. If you dig too ferociously, I've done it. And look at that. That is a high density. I found that pocket earlier. There's just a lot of worms there, eh? So that kind of gives you an idea of how many worms are really in this worm bin. That's just a tiny, tiny section I've showed you. So it's full. Like, even though you see the paper over the top, underneath the surface, they're there because there's food. So I'll put all the food to the top, and all the waste will go, hopefully to the bottom. And so the worms are all coming up from the bottom to the top to get the food. And so I used to put the food in all layers, but I just put it on the top layer now and just make the pilgrimage up to that top one. So they can go back and forth. And that way I know I'll put the paper shreds in the lower levels, but I'll put like actual food in the top level. Really, I probably should put just actual food underneath so I don't have to put a brick on top. And it would save predators from, they could just make a pilgrimage to the middle. But this works. It's fun. And it's easy for me to just, the layers are heavy. So taking the top off and just throwing stuff in there is a very easy thing, and then topping it up with the paper. And with the paper shreds, I might go in once every 2-3 months and just check on the paper shreds. They'll usually be all gone before I replenish them. They'll be all eaten up and turned into compost. And then with food, I'm pretty, because we're Americans and Americans create a lot of waste, it's not really a problem to keep worms fed. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of throwing stuff in the trash, you just research what is compostable and you can do that. So I have worms everywhere. So I have buckets of dirt that look like just dirt, but it's actually there are worms in there, and paper shreddies, and they're little compost buckets. I'm kind of addicted to composting. So that's just a little batch of worms that Cuddles has caught wind to. Billy doesn't know they're there yet, because if Billy knew they were there, she'd start bullying Cuddles out of them. The second she starts to catch wind of what Cuddles has got going on there, then Cuddles will be out of the game, and she'll probably be inside the thing herself. Billy has broken a lot of my planting baskets because of this. She'll step on it, she'll be really aggressive on them and step on the sides, and they'll crack. If you have cheap pots, like, yeah, Billy's really goes hard. So the only reason she's moved back there, like you saw her, is because I shoot her away. And you know what I mean? She's not good at sharing. She really tries to dominate every food pile. So I have to be wary of spreading food out, so that it doesn't become just Billy standing on top of the one pile of food and making sure. So you mean that's eventually, if I don't get involved, that's what's going to happen. If I pile food up in a pile, Billy's just going to dominate the pile. So I really try to make sure that I do not pile up food in one place and that I spread it out. Otherwise, you know, Cuddles will ultimately get the short end of the stick. So that's me just pouring it all out. Thanks for watching. Maybe you'll watch other videos.